Hello everyone, welcome to Prelims Warm Up. This initiative has been brought to you by Aptiplus Academy for Civil Services. Hello everyone, welcome to Prelims Warm Up. This initiative has been brought to you by Aptiplus Academy for Civil Services, and my name is Shaikh Datta. I am the faculty for Geography and Environment at Aptiplus Academy for Civil Services. So let us look at the first question for today. The first question, it has been taken from UPSC Prelims 2017. And the first question it is asking, consider the following statements. So you have two statements which have been provided. Number one, in the election for Lok Sabha or State Assembly, the winning candidate must get at least 50% of the votes polled to be declared elected. That is the first statement. Second statement, according to the provisions laid down in the Constitution of India, in Lok Sabha, the Speaker's post goes to the majority party and the Deputy Speaker's post, it goes to the opposition. According to the provisions laid down in the Constitution of India, in Lok Sabha, the Speaker's post goes to the majority party and the Deputy Speakers to the opposition. So which out of this correct? The answer is D. None of them are correct because first statement is in case of the election for Lok Sabha and the State Assembly, the first past the post system. First past the post system is followed. Okay, FPPS, the first past the post system, it is followed where a candidate who holds more votes than any other candidate is elected. So it is not necessary that the candidate has to get more than 50% of the votes polled. Second statement is also incorrect because as per the Constitution, the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker in Lok Sabha are elected among its members. So here it is saying that according to the provisions laid down in the Constitution of India in Lok Sabha, the Speaker's post goes to the majority party and the Deputy Speaker's post to the Constitution. So according to the question, it has been laid down in the provisions of the Constitution of India, but that is not correct because we get to see that as per the Constitution, it only says that the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker in Lok Sabha, they will be elected among its members. It does not say that the Speaker's post will go to the majority party and the Deputy Speaker to the opposition. The second statement is, the second question again has been taken from UPSC Prelims 2017, and it is saying which of the following has or have occurred in India after its liberalization of economic policies in 1991. So after the liberalization of economic policies of 1991, which out of these have occurred? Number one, share of agriculture in GDP has increased enormously. Number two, share of India's exports in world trade has increased. Number three, FDI inflows have increased. And number four, India's foreign exchange reserves have increased enormously. So just have some idea regarding the statements which are being said. Number one, the share of agriculture in GDP increased enormously. Number two, share of India's exports in world trade, it increased. Number three, FDI inflows increased. And number four, India's foreign exchange reserves increased enormously. So what happened after the liberalization of economic policies in 1991? The right answer is B, that is 2, 3 and 4 only, because what happened is after LPG reforms of the liberalization, privatization and globalization, what we get to see is that there was more amount of increase in India's exports in case of world trade. FDI inflows also started to increase in India. Plus, we also had to get to see that India's foreign exchange reserves that also increased enormously. So, if you look at the explanation part of it, the post-reform period, it shows the gradual decline in the agriculture sector's contribution to the Indian economy. India's traditional occupation, that is agriculture, it now contributes only about 15% to the GDP, which was earlier, that is before or around 1991, it used to be around 29%. So now it has reduced to 15%. So the post-reforms period, it shows the gradual decline in the agricultural sector's contribution to the Indian economy. India's traditional occupation, that is agriculture, it now contributes only about 15% to the GDP, down from 29% in 1991. Next up, we also get to see that the share of India's exports, it increased since 1991. So the second statement is also correct. Before 1991, foreign investments, they used to be negligible. The first year of reforms, it saw a total foreign investment of only around $74 million. However, investments have steadily risen since then, except for occasional blips between 1997 and 2000, and of course in 2008 to 2012, 2008 and 2012, mainly because of the global economic slowdown. So as of 31st March 2016, The country has received total FDI of around 371 billion US dollars since 1991. The year 2008, it recorded the highest FDI inflow of around 43.40 billion dollars. The biggest spurt in inflow was between 2005 and 2006, where we get to see an increase of almost 175.54% increase was there in the FDI inflow. As of 2016 March, we get to see that India has attracted almost 10.55 billion US dollars worth of FDI. So yes, there was an increase in the amount of inflow of FDI. Next, it was India's dismal state of forex reserves that forced the government to bring in economic reforms. Okay, that is the reason why the 1991 LPG reforms actually took place, because India's forex reserves that were dismally low. It was very, very low. Now 25 years later, forex reserves are at a record high. In 1991, there was just around 5.8 billion US dollars, but as of 4th June, we are talking about 2016. Right now, it is more than 400, but around that time, it was the forex reserves. They were around 360.8 billion US dollars. Usually, import coverage of 7 to 8 months is considered to be sufficient. Right now, we get to see, that is standing today, we get to see that India's import coverage is for over 11 months. Okay. The biggest jump in reserves was witnessed between 2007 and 2008, when the kitty, that is the foreign exchange reserve that we have, it was 55% to almost $309.2 billion. So during 2007 and 2008, the increase was the highest. So did the foreign exchange reserve, did it increase enormously? Yes, it did. So 2, 3, and 4 are correct. Now moving to the third question, what is the application of somatic cell nuclear transfer technology? Somatic cell nuclear transfer technology. A. Production of biolarvicides. B. Manufacture of biodegradable plastics. C. Reproductive cloning of animals. And D. Production of organisms free of disease. So what is the application of somatic cell nuclear transfer technology? A. Production of biolarvicides. B. Manufacture of biodegradable plastics. C. Reproductive cloning of animals. And D. Production of organisms free of disease. So let's try to understand. The right answer is C, that is reproductive cloning of animals. Okay, reproductive cloning of animals, that is the main application of somatic cell nuclear transfer technology. Somatic cell nuclear transfer technology, main application is the reproductive cloning of animals. So somatic cell nuclear transfer, it involves removing the nucleus which contains the DNA and implanting it into an unfertilized egg. What is meant by somatic cell nuclear transfer? That involves the removing of nucleus which contains the DNA and implanting it into an unfertilized egg whose nucleus has been removed. It is used in reproductive cloning of organisms. Okay. So somatic cell nuclear transfer technology, that is used in the reproductive cloning of animals, where we get to see that nucleus will be removed, and this nucleus, it will contain the DNA, and this nucleus, it will be implanted into an unfertilized egg whose nucleus has been removed. And this is mainly used in the reproductive cloning of organisms. Next, coming to question number 4, consider the following statements. Number 1, National Payment Corporation of India, or NPCI, it helps in promoting the financial inclusion in India. And second statement is NPCI has launched RuPay, which is a card payment scheme. So which out of these are correct or is correct? National Payment Corporation of India, or NPCI, helps in promoting financial inclusion in the country, and NPCI has launched RuPay, which is a card payment scheme. So the right answer is C, that is both of them are correct. NPCI, National Payment Corporation of India, is an umbrella organization for all retail payment systems in India. It was set up with the guidance and support of the Reserve Bank of India, Indian Bank Association (IBA). The core objective was to consolidate and integrate the multiple systems with varying service levels into a nationwide uniform and standard business process for all retail payment systems. Okay. NPCI, the National Payment Corporation of India, it is an umbrella organization for all retail payment systems in India. It was set up with the guidance and support of the Reserve Bank of India and the Indian Bank Association. The core objective was what? To consolidate and integrate the multiple systems with varying service levels into a nationwide uniform and standard business process for all retail payment systems. The other objective was to facilitate an affordable payment mechanism to benefit the common man across the country and help in financial inclusion. Okay. So core objective of NPCI was to consolidate and integrate the multiple systems with varying service levels into a nationwide uniform and standard business process for all retail payment systems. And the other objective was to facilitate an affordable payment mechanism to benefit the common man across the country and help financial inclusion. So the first statement is correct, that it is meant for helping financial inclusion. It offers many products and services, out of which we also get to see the RuPay card, the BHIM app. All of these are some of the products of NPCI, and unified payment interface. All these are provided by NPCI. So yes, RuPay, it is a card payment scheme. It is a gateway, and we get to see that this was also launched by NPCI. Coming to the last question, which was also asked in UPSC Prelims 2017, we get to see the term M-stripes. It is often seen in the news in the context of what? A. Captive breeding of wild fauna. B. Maintenance of tiger reserves. C. Indigenous satellite navigation system. And D. Security of national highways. So what is this M-stripes? What is it related to? It is related to B. Maintenance of tiger reserves. So coming to M-stripes, monitoring system for tigers, intensive protection and ecological status. Monitoring system for tigers, intensive protection and ecological status, that is M-stripes. So it is a software monitoring system, and it is a software, basically it's an Android based software. Okay? Monitoring system for tigers, intensive protection and ecological status. It is a software monitoring system, and it has been launched by the government of India in 2010 in some tiger reserves. Why? Mainly to reduce the vulnerability of the tiger, and the system would enable the field managers, that is the forest guards, the range officers, to assist intensity and spatial coverage of patrols. That is, they will patrol, and it will help them in better patrolling actually. So it would enable field managers to assist the intensity and spatial coverage of patrols in a geographic information system domain, that is GIS domain. So mainly it helps in better patrolling, better and more efficient management of tiger reserves. So answer is B, that is maintenance of tiger reserves. So with this we complete today's episode of Prelims Warm Up, and I hope you have liked this episode. Please let us know in the comment section. Also please like and subscribe to Apti+ Academy for Civil Services YouTube channel for more such informative videos. We'll be back again with another set of 5 questions. Till then, stay safe and take care. Thank you so much.